Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In this video, we are going to discuss Mayor Brandon Johnson. He is trying to go full blown communism in the city of Chicago, and this is due, his reasons being, is because they have food deserts in the south and west side of Chicago. That's because of the high crime and theft. So a few months back, there were several large chain grocery stores that divest they divested from Chicago. They said it wasn't worth it. So we'll talk about that today. And also we'll talk about the looming shutdown. There was some Twitter beef between Matthew Gates and Byron Donaldson. These two are representatives in Florida, and it was over a bill that Byron Donalds wrote. It's called the Donald CR bill. And one of the things Matt Gates has, he has a problem with the bill because it continues to fund Ukraine. So we'll discuss that today. And we are going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the impeachment inquiry with Joe Biden. And also, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is supposed to be in Michigan next week, and he is trying to speak with the UAW workers um, because of the strike. All right, so I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. Hopefully, you could hear me and see me. Um, we're going to get to our first story, and let me share this with you. This is a report from Chicago about Mayor Brandon Johnson's plan. And we'll see, like I said, this is communist to the fullest, a government ran grocery store. Well, I mean, but he thinks his reasons are valid. But anyone knows that if the government controls your food supply, what else? So they could just starve people out, right? You type in the chat, let me know what your thoughts and concerns are about this. So let's get this started.
Grocery store to promote food equity.
But as CBS 2's Jermont Terry found out, you won't be able to buy food anytime soon.
He's live in the newsroom to break it down for us. Jermont.
Joe and Erica, this is simply a plan and one done in small cities. But if the city-owned grocery store gets up and running, and that is a big if, Chicago will be the largest city to accomplish this. Tonight, Mayor Brandon Johnson's team explains the need for this push. Many neighborhoods on the south and west sides are without quality grocery stores. Windows are boarded up after private chains moved out. Take this former Aldi at 76 in Ashland in Auburn Gresham. It closed more than a year ago.
All of our stores are closing. And so now we have to go outside of our neighborhoods.
Native Southsider Shelley Williams welcomes any plans to bring grocery stores back. That includes Mayor Brandon Johnson's newest initiative to get the city into the grocery chain business.
So I think that's a good idea that Mayor Johnson is picking up the slack where these big store chains are leaving.
Under Mayor Johnson's proposal, the city would use economic development grants. Yumi Grisby, the administration's policy chief, says the city will team up with an organization to open a city-owned grocery in one of Chicago's food deserts.
And so we are not spending any taxpayer dollars, right? What we're also going to be able to access is the funding that exists at the national level, at the state level.
The major grocery chains claim they left these communities because it just was not profitable. So it begs the question how Mayor Johnson can flip that narrative.
And so it's not necessarily about profitability. It really is about what is the impact on Chicagoans.
how does a grocery store get pushed ahead of crime and safety over other things?
I don't want to say that this is taking a priority. I would like to say that overall, it's not also about a grocery store. What it is about increasing access to healthy options and to food for all Chicagoans.
And while the mayor's office says the grocery store will be funded by grant money, we should note some of the grant money could come from state and federal tax dollars, just not local tax dollars. There's no timeline when this initiative would or could move forward. Live in the newsroom tonight, Jermont Terry, CBS 2 News. Joe and Erica.
Jermont, thank you.
So that's great.
At FanDuel Casino, we know
That's just great. So, of course, if they're getting grants, and it's from the federal government, it's your tax dollars. You don't even live in Chicago, and you got to pay for the grocery store. The only problem is, I got a question to Mayor Johnson. Okay, so one of my businesses, I used to have a online boutique where I sell baby products on Amazon, and I use FBA. But anyway, that is not the story. The story is one of the vendors or my suppliers that I went to, it was almost a profit sharing. So you purchase through them, and whatever products you purchase, and at the end of the year, they divided the profit up based off the amount that you spent with them. Why can't you build something like that? Have your people, the people that live there, invest into the grocery store. It could be a community-owned grocery store, not city-owned grocery store. And reason why I'm saying this, there is a problem with the government supplying you food. You guys don't see that problem? Not only you want them to supply you food stamps, but you want them to supply you the food that you buy with the food stamps. Am I the only one who sees that's a problem with that? Now you got all these immigrants that's coming over from different countries, communist countries, and they went through the same thing that you're trying to do in Chicago. So if you're such a safe haven, why would you mimic something that they're escaping from? Does that even make any sense? And this is what I'm talking about. When I'm saying, let me just share this with you. Now, this story is from years back, but this is Venezuela. Most of the immigrants that we're getting, about 50% of the immigrants are from Venezuela. And Venezuela had a problem. This is shared by NPR News. Now, NPR is a liberal news station, but this is shared. Nightmare on grocery shopping in Venezuela. Now, this was, reported years ago. But you see how empty the shelves are. And what they're saying, the government ran stores. They only allowed the people to shop at certain times. Not only you couldn't shop at certain times, you could only shop at certain times. You have to provide a fingerprint to shop. And say, for instance, you needed baby formula, diapers, whatever. Since they had a shortage of supplies, they were limited at these government-ran stores, shortage of supplies. You had to come in with the birth certificate of the baby to prove the baby was yours before you could buy any supplies for your child. Just imagine going. Now, this is already going on. Not only government ran, but providing a fingerprint to prove who you are. And I guess it links up to some type of banking system, right? And then it's in some states already. But you guys don't see a problem with that. I mean, everybody's probably like, oh, like that one lady. I think it's great that Brandon Johnson is picking up the slack Reason why you don't have any grocery stores now, reason why privately owned grocery stores pulled out of Chicago is because of the high crime. So not only you're promoting high crime, you're going to say, okay, now this is a government ran store. We only have a limited amount of supplies. So if you come here, you are only allowed certain items. We're going to put a limit on the type of purchases you could buy, the type of foods you could buy. You guys don't see a problem with that? Put it in the chat. So in this article, it's saying that one housewife, Annie Valero, was shopping and she had to shop on Monday. And the government supermarkets sell price controlled foods, making them far cheaper than private stores. So they had to go. So I'm assuming that's what they're trying to do. Make food affordable and just available, period. And it allowed it to state-ran supermarket just 2 days a week. That's their only availability of opening were 2 days a week, which is ridiculous. And you also had to have an ID card. And it was saying the system was designed to prevent shoppers from buying more than what they needed and from reselling goods on the black market for a huge markup. So this is what they do in communist countries. They limit the amount of food you could buy, which is not, it's not a bad thing that they say, oh, you only could buy this amount, because we do have an obesity problem in the United States. You know what I mean? We have heart disease, diabetes. So that might not be a bad thing, but who's providing it? The government. So the government could starve you out. If you decide you don't want to vote for Brandon Johnson, he could say, oh, you don't have to vote for me, but we're not going to sell any meats at the grocery store anymore. Or we're not going to sell fresh vegetables at the grocery store no more, since you don't want to vote for me. I really warn, especially my Black people, to think about what they're voting for. It might seem like it's a great thing, but it's not. And Chicago has a mass transit system. It might just be worth getting on the bus to travel to that grocery store that's open, instead of accepting Mayor Brandon Johnson tyranny. This other article from Crane Chicago Business. And you know what? They always use the word equity. When we talk about Black folks or urban neighborhoods that have predominantly minorities in it, they use the word equity. But I'm not used to that term equity as it pertains to people. I'm thinking equity, hey, when you have equity in something, that means you put up into it. But now they use the term equity in a different way. So before I go into equity, we'll see what they're talking about, their equity, okay? It says supermarket closings are the latest blow to the south and west side of Chicago. They're saying the Walmart stores in the spring disheartened the residents who already face limited options for fresh produce, meats, and pharmacy goods. It was the latest blow to the neighborhoods that earlier had lost 2 Target stores more recently, and then the Whole Foods in Inglewood. It says the Black community has lost trust in grocers. No, Melody. Melody, you're wrong. The grocers lost trust in the Black community. You know why? Because they said, oh, yes, we see there's a need for grocery store. So we're going to invest in this community. We're going to build this $1 million store, flagship location, so your people of the community could come in and shop and have fresh produce, fresh fruit, fresh food, items, house goods, pharmacy, all at an affordable rate. And this is Walmart. I'm not a fan of Walmart, but that's what they did. They did that in your community. And what did your community do? You said, "Oh, we're not going to limit people from shoplifting. Oh, they're struggling right now." That's what your people did. And they ran through the grocery store and stole a whole bunch of shit. They didn't even steal food. They were stealing stuff that they didn't need. Now you could say, oh, they were stealing things that they needed. No, they were stealing things that they could resell, like TVs. You guys go back to my most viewed video on my channel. The most viewed video on my channel was that Walmart video. Let me see if I can find it for you. This is the most viewed on my channel. Hold on for a second. Skip. And it's called "Half of Walmart Stores Closed in Chicago." And guess who mad? Because we had all these aldermen getting up and saying, oh, we're going to march to every single state. If Walmart closed down, we're going to march to every single state and we're going to protest. But it's too late. You should have been protesting against Pookie, Ray Ray, and Shanae from stealing out of Walmart. You would have. You wouldn't be facing this problem. And you should have been going to your aldermen in your government or your mayor and saying, hey, enough is enough. And now you're facing with food deserts. So Melody Winston, whoever she is, oh, she's a senior executive of Living Fresh Market in Forest Park. She is wrong. If you really feel like that, you need to rethink about how you're doing business. Because I can't fathom me as a business owner opening my store to provide services because I have a bleeding heart. Oh, I want to provide these services because I know it's a need. And they come in, and I'm using they, Pookie and Ray Ray comes in and steal the shit. And it's not the cost of doing business. That theft is not the cost of doing business. It's not. You shouldn't put that in the cost. Maybe a small percentage, but the way Walmart and Target was losing, that it shouldn't have been the cost of doing business. It's really ridiculous. And so she is in this article, it says, in the light of recent round of corporate closings, store closings, is it even possible to operate profitable supermarkets on the south and west sides? Why is this so difficult? And what does it take? Why are you asking that question? Are you boo-boo the fool? They already told you why we left. They already told you why they left. They gave specific reasons. One of the stores, they said they haven't been profitable in 20 years. They've been there for 20 years. Walmart. And they said they wasn't profitable. And they was just trying to make sure it came around. One of the other stores on the south side, a Walmart, they tore that store up during the riots, and they actually put a whole bunch of money in it to reopen, and it never was profitable. They waited 2 years to say, oh, we made a big mistake. We just gonna chalk it up as a loss because we can't stop the theft. And not only the theft in the community, but they were saying people that actually worked at Walmart was stealing from them too. So what do you say about that? And so operators face substantial headwinds. Many Black and Brown communities have lost populations. Median income has stagnated, said Mara Devitt, senior partner of retail consultancy, McMillan and Doolittle. These stores have fewer opportunities to sell fancy high-margin foods such as $8 crackers and $12 block of cheese. And they use, I guess this is a sign for Chicago equity. Equity is something that they've been touting for the longest. And I guess equity for them means to equalize the uneven balance of justice. I guess that's what equity means, as in a social justice standpoint. If safety becomes an issue for customers, staff, and delivery people, additional investment for security is required. If the return on investment looks better in another location, the retailer will go there. No duh. And they're saying the Whole Foods in Inglewood that closed brought the issue to a head. Not only did the neighborhood lose the marquee store brand, but it's the same place Save a Lot was. And they're saying, which has a reputation on the south side of unfriendly stores where the shopper might encounter spoiled lettuce, a dirty freezer case, or expired meat. And one of the representatives says, you can't take me from a Bentley and Whole Foods to a Pinto. And this is the alderman of the 16th district. It says Save a Lot lease was acquired by Ohio-based Yellow Banana, owned by a Black investor group. In 2021, the group took over 38 Save a Lot stores in 5 states. It operates 8 in Chicago. And those are the people that's willing to invest. So this is a problem when you're saying Save a Lot is not good enough, but you have Save a Lot people there. You have Save a Lot people, even Walmart people, but you want Whole Foods. You want them to roll out the red carpet, but you act like Save a Lot. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. And look at these unemployment rates. So, unemployment rate 16. This is ridiculous, you guys. This is probably why Chicago is having a hard time. Household income is 39 all the way to 50 or 63. You got some in 63. I guess this chart is supposed to represent the longevity has to do with the neighborhood's demographics within 10-minute drive of each other. So let's see if I guess the higher the unemployment, the lower the rate of closure, or the higher the rate of closure. That's what it looks like it's saying. So anyway, if we look at Whole Foods, I wonder who did before they open in a location, they usually get the median household income, how many residents is living within that area to see if the business can sustain there or can be viable there. But it says Whole Foods that was in Inglewood opened in 2016 to November 2022. So just under 6 years, or over a little bit over 6 years, it closed. But look at the income rate. They decided to put a Whole Foods in a household income rate of 34,000 and an unemployment rate of 17%. But Whole Foods is probably one of those companies. I think it's owned by Amazon now, right? It's probably one of those companies is like, oh, we're trying to do something for the community. But they should have went to the mayor, hey, you need to get this unemployment rate up before we move. And I would like to think if you're a Whole Foods, you would say, hey, we're not moving in any neighborhood that got an unemployment over 5%. That's what I would think. Let's get to some of your chats. Alan. Alan says, I'm sorry, Chawanne, to admit this, but most of our large cities are bad stations for communist Democrats. Yeah, that's true. It's wild there. That's what Kay New York said. Sharon, I'm new to the chat. I live in Tennessee near Nashville, small town. I can't even imagine this. Very sad. Sharon, thank you for joining us. Yeah, so this is the problem that Chicago is facing. They want to be a communist city. And Mayor Brandon Johnson, instead of fixing the problem, and we see they have a high unemployment rate, he championed jobs for teenagers so they could stay off the street. Don't know if that program worked or not. But you have another problem because since you're the safe haven of immigrants, you have another unemployment problem. Okay? You have another housing problem for people that don't speak English. So not only you have a problem with unemployment, immigration, housing, you also have a food problem. And instead of telling the people of Chicago, hey, if you want this grocery store, if you want your city to thrive, we're going to need investors, community-based investors. You can't tell me they don't have enough dollars circulating in those communities to get a community-based ran grocery store. You can't tell me that. Black folks spend a lot of money on BS. So why can't you invest in your own community instead of trying to get the government to feed you? This doesn't make any sense. And another problem you have, you just passed that law that we talked about yesterday, that Safety Act law, the pretrial release, no bail pretrial release. So the problem that happened with your grocery store, you decided, oh, it's not a problem anymore. We're just going to let these guys go anyway. Yeah. We're going to let these guys go anywhere. We're not going to charge them with any crimes, or if we do charge them with any crimes, if it's petty crimes like stealing from the grocery store, we're just going to let them release them on their own recognizance. Don't charge them bail or give them a cash bond or anything, because you're saying it's an equity thing. It's unjust, or it's unjust. This is what they're saying about equity. And this is from National Association of College Employers. This new term of equity, nothing that you and I probably studied in statistics or finance. The new term equity refers to fairness and justice and is distinguished from equality. So equality means providing the same to all, but equity means recognizing that we do all not start from the same place and must acknowledge and make adjustments to imbalances. You could say you didn't start from the same place, but you did have a Whole Foods and a Walmart in your community. You did have fresh vegetables there for several years, but you decided to normalize these deviant people. And you're probably the same people that, okay, I don't steal, but when they come to you with the stolen object, you're buying the stolen object. And then you wonder why you don't have any grocery stores. Just because you didn't actually do the deed, but if you buy the deed, you're part of the problem. You are part of the problem too. Now, this is what equity means, I guess, if you're talking about the social justice standpoint. That's what equity means in social justice standpoint. But it really means if you put in, you got a piece of that pie. Just like I have so much equity in my house because I purchased my house and I paid X amount of percentage off. If I keep on paying it off, I will probably have 100% equity if I pay it all off. That's what equity means. Whatever I put in, that's my percentage of the pie. So what's wrong with that equity? Why are we making a new term for equity? And I think that's the problem with Chicago and other states like California. Just one last thing I want to say. This is on Fox. And Johnson office said Wednesday that it's working with Economic Security Project, a nonprofit group, and they're planning to do a feasibility study, will help inform the Johnson administration emerging food retail strategy, which will receive input from experts, community leaders, and Chicago's Food Equity Council. Why do you have a Food Equity Council? Because you got a bunch of people that don't do nothing for the community. That's why you need a Food Equity Council. You could look across the land and you will never see a Food Equity Council in just a normal state, because they don't need one. You don't see any Republican cities, oh, we need a Food Equity Council. You don't see that, because grocery stores are privately owned. And when people act right, the grocery stores will stay there. They won't get up and move if they're making money, because they want to be in business. They want to make money. All Chicagoans deserve to live near convenient, affordable, healthy grocery options. We know access to grocery stores is already a challenge for many residents, especially on the south and west sides. Johnson said, "My administration is committed to advancing innovative, whole of government approaches to address these inequities. I am proud to work alongside partners to take the step in envisioning what a municipally owned grocery store in Chicago could look like. It's going to look terrible, because you are not fixing the problem. You need to fix the people. The grocery store is not the problem. It's the people. You got a bunch of crazy people in Chicago running amok, and you allow them to, because you don't want to demonize the damn kids. You don't want to demonize the kids, and it's not mob-like action. And that's the problem. Anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse about this Chicago, because we could talk about Chicago all day, and we'll never could answer our questions. Why are they doing this? We'll never be able to figure it out because they're really insane. Okay, these people voted for this shit, and this is what they get. Instead of cleaning up the city of Chicago, they running amok. They making it worse for the people in Chicago, like the good citizens of Chicago. Anyway. Ultra 80s said, some parts of Illinois still have cash bail, which is amazing. Greg Matthews, I wonder if Brandon will be interested in accepting a communism salary. Probably, hell no. He's not willing to do that. He is not willing to accept communism salary, because that means everybody got to put in one pot. So we're going to get to our next story. Our next story going to be a quick and short one. It is about Congress. Congress on their looming shutdown. Their looming shutdown. And Matthew Gates and Brian Donaldson, they were going back and forth about this CR bill. Let me just get to Matthew Gates. I'm calling him Matthew Gates, but I think it's just Matt Gates. Let me just type it in. Hold on for a second. Okay, so this is Matt Gates talking about the CR bill.
January compelled.
So can you give us your latest thoughts on the CR and what your plan is?
I'm doing everything I can to assemble a coalition to defeat the Donald CR. I believe that it is really kind of frivolous in the cuts because they only occur for 30 days. I don't think we lead to any programmatic reform. And I'm over the CR era of the House of Representatives. The deal we made in January compels single subject spending bills where each agency comes forward and defends their budget. And those would be bills that would be open to amendment. That's what the American people want to see. And that's the only way we're actually going to get to the type of substantive review that yields actual results. 8% cut, 1% cut, 2% cut. This is not the work of a serious legislative body.
And so you're comfortable with a government shutdown at the end of it?
Well, I'm not comfortable with it, frankly. We should have had our spending bills moving. You know, when we passed H.R. 2, we should have passed our Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill. When we moved the NDAA, we should have moved the defense appropriations bill. But we're behind, and someone has to be held accountable for the fact that we've been off schedule. We can't blame Joe Biden and the Democrats for why the Republican-controlled House of Representatives hasn't passed single-subject spending bills. That's our fault. So we have to deal with that. We will likely have to endorse some degree of a shutdown, but that's why right now, rather than dithering around with the Donald CR that doesn't have the votes, we should be moving single-subject spending bills.
So really, Donald's bill that he want is basically an extension of this bill that they put forth in January. I don't know if you guys remember, they were trying to shut them down in January. I guess they didn't have enough money in the budget, but they're trying to lump everything like they've been lumping everything since COVID. They're trying to lump and Matt Gates, he does have a point. He wants separate spending agendas. You know, you don't just lump it all up in one bill, separate. And maybe they will have to shut down for a minute, but why lump everything like the Ukraine spending? We're not trying to fund Ukraine anymore. But I don't know if you guys know, most Republicans think they should fund Ukraine. They don't want to turn their back on Ukraine, supposedly. So it has this funding for Ukraine in there. There's also funding for the Oversight Committee or the DOJ. And that's what Matthew Gates, he has problems with some of the things that's actually in this CR bill. And his main complaint is that the House, Republican-controlled House, knew about this spending agenda. They knew it was coming. and basically they sat on their hands until the last minute. So I don't know why they can't agree upon something, but that's politics for you. They're not. I don't think they are ever going to agree on it, and I don't think they're like, you know, a knockdown drag
So can you give us
with
your
anything, but with each other. And I'm saying Matt Gaetz and Brian Donalds. I think they're still friends, but they just can't agree on this CR bill. Okay, so it says on here the 8% cut is for 30 days. The border policy will be ignored by Biden. The CR funds the election interference of Jack Smith. This is a terrible bill, lumping the funding of desperate agencies of government into one bad vote. It is the opposite, and it doesn't have the votes. So, and Byron Donalds, he responded. He said it's a 30-day CR, and it's basically provide funding. It secures the southern border, cut government spending. And he's saying there is no money for Ukraine. The truth is Congress needs more time to do the necessary spending cuts and reforms to stop the weaponization of our government and save our country. So they're going back and forth on Twitter about this. Who's right, who's wrong? Well, if it has Ukraine spending on it, we don't want it. We know that's totally wrong. And we don't want to be funding special counsel stuff. We're not trying to fund that. No. Now, another thing about, okay, so hopefully they'll come to some type of agreement to avoid the shutdown. But another thing about Hunter Biden or this investigation with Joe Biden, they just subpoenaed Kevin McCarthy, just subpoenaed Hunter Biden for the hearing next week. I believe they're supposed to be starting an impeachment inquiry next week. It says, in accordance with the House of Representatives' duty to investigate President Joseph R. Biden, alleged bribery and other high crimes and misdemeanors, and in furtherance of the House impeachment inquiry, please find and comply with the lawful subpoena. And they want to produce any documentary materials, and I guess they attach the schedule of what they're looking for. And as with all witnesses who are required to appear for the Judiciary Committee, you may rise in relevant privilege objection to specific questions asked during your deposition. But it did say if you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment rights against the self-incrimination for your testimony, please so inform the Judiciary Committee. They did not put a date of when he's supposed to have this stuff in, but it just says, please respond at your earliest convenience. Why didn't they give him a date? I don't understand that. I don't understand why they didn't give him a date. So, and I don't know if you guys seen everyone besides Joe Biden. Everyone besides Joe Biden is coming to Michigan to talk to the UAW. And John Fetterman was actually there too. John Fetterman was actually in Michigan talking to the people. I don't know where my screen went out. Can you see me? Oh, yeah. Talking to the people at the UAW, the good workers. And this is what he said, you guys.
The CEOs is my message to the CEOs is, at $74 million, collectively earning that, how many yachts can they need, to water ski behind it? It's just crazy. I don't know. That's my message to the.
So he has a message to the CEO, but I don't know what the message is. Can anybody tell me what's the message? This is on Colin Rugg's Twitter. He said Senator John Fetterman delivers a powerful message in support of the United Auto Workers. Truly inspirational. So yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, but that's his message. And there were several people like Hakeem Jeffries. He came in, I believe. What's her name? Not Hakeem Jeffries, but yeah, Hakeem Jeffries. But the guy who's running in Michigan, he used to be an actor, or I guess he's still an actor. But he was there out there, and it's a lot of other Democrats are coming, but President Trump is planning to come to the meeting, or I guess to talk to the UAW. But Sean Fain, I guess he doesn't really care too much for Donald Trump, so he has some choice of words for him. Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is going to skip. They got a debate next week. I believe it's in California, but he's skipping it. He's coming to Michigan to talk to the auto workers. So it's saying, let me share this with you. UAW president has some harsh words for Trump. It says every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. And that was what President Sean Fain said in the email statement. We can't keep electing billionaires and millionaires that don't have any understanding what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to get by, and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class. Well, Sean, I totally disagree with you. You can't just say you just want a person to run the country because he lived paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't make him a qualifier to run the nation. I'm sorry. And maybe he's far removed from being poor, but that doesn't, is being poor doesn't, or living paycheck to paycheck doesn't qualify you to make decisions for the country. That's my personal opinion. You guys might think differently, but you can't just say millionaires and billionaires don't understand what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, because you don't know where they came from. Anyway, in his Detroit speech, Trump may sense a political opportunity from the auto workers strike, attempting to gain support from the working class Americans who are increasingly disappointed in the direction of the U.S. economy. Trump rally will take place concurrently with the second Republican presidential primary debate in California, which Trump plans to skip. He also skipped the first debate. Union members, once reliable Democratic voting bloc, have gradually gravitated to Republican candidates, according to the CNN polls. But Trump's union rally is no sure bet. He has repeatedly criticized the popular fame surprise winner of the union recent leadership election after running an aggressive campaign that captured the anti-establishment zeitgeist of the union workers. Yet, Trump has told union members that the union president doesn't hold their best interests at heart. The auto workers are being sold down the river by the leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. So Trump said the union should completely reject Biden's administration push towards electric vehicles as a non-negotiable. He's absolutely correct. I was reading in one article, you guys, they said if Stellantis meets the demands of, I think it's going to happen regardless if they meet the demands of what the union proposes as far as their pay increase and all the other things that they want. They are going to shut down about 12 to 18 plants, and these plants are going to be shifted to make electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles, you guys know my opinion on electric vehicles. They do not sell. It's not a feasible thing to do. Now, maybe it will be feasible later on. Maybe you could phase it. But I think 2035 and the California initiative by 2030, no one's selling any gas-powered vehicles. These are aggressive demands. Insurance is high, which we discussed yesterday. There's no charging stations. Literally, the charging stations, you have to plan out your route for the charging stations. And I think Tesla holds that technology and they own most of the charging stations. So what are you going to do? And then the affordability of the car. So that lumps in with the insurance. So you're saying that you want to switch to save the global energy, the global this big green initiative, but then you want to put thousands of people out of work because gas-powered vehicles have different parts than electric-powered vehicles. And most of these plants will be automated. Now, they're already starting to be automated anyway. A lot of the assembly plants is automation. You just got a person really checking to make sure everything is running down the assembly line. But a lot of that stuff is automated anyway. So what they should be rejecting this green initiative. Now, speaking of green initiative, this is the last thing I want to talk about. You got Zelensky. I guess he's trying to raise money. I don't know. He's trying to raise money on I guess from everybody. Zelensky is trying to raise money from everybody. Who gave him the stage to talk? I don't know, but people are listening to him. This is Zelensky. Now, this is on MSNBC. It says Ukrainian President Zelensky speaking to the UN General Assembly, accusing Russia of his mass kidnapping of tens of thousands of children. I'm not trying to listen to that. We talked about that story before, but that's not the one I wanted. Where is my story at? What is he talking about? Oh. Oh, here it is. So this is on Benny Johnson page, but Zelensky is not telling us we are all failing our climate change objective, because I believe he wants to ask you for some more money. And remember, Joe Biden and his green energy people committed another $40 million to Zelensky on that green energy. I'm not making this up. They're saying they not only we're giving them money for Ukraine, the actual war, we're going to give them money for this green energy stuff on climate change, because we got this big climate change in this initiative.
We have to stop. Humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives. This means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. And when people in the streets of New York and other cities of the world went out on climate protest, we all have seen them. And when people in Morocco and Libya and other countries die as a result of natural disasters, and when islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war and kill tens of thousands of people. We have to stop it. We must act united to defeat the aggressor and focus all our capabilities and energy on addressing these challenges. As nukes are restrained, likewise the aggressor must be restrained, and all his tools and methods of war. Each war now can become final, but it takes our unity to make sure that aggression will not break in again. And it is not a dialogue between the so-called great powers somewhere behind the closed doors that can guarantee us all the new wars era, but open war of all nations for peace. Even though humanity.
So you see his message. So he's saying that we cannot focus on climate change because we have this Russia aggressor. Okay, so our focus should be on climate change. But since we have Russia, he's stopping us. Russia is stopping us to focus on climate change. And New York City and other areas will be either underwater or desert-like areas because of this war. So we must unite and send more money to Ukraine. Because we're not doing that right now, you guys. We're not sending enough money. We need 10 more dollars. We need 10 more dollars. We need 10 more dollars. Yes, we do. We need 10 more dollars. We need $10 more. We need $10 more. Yes, we do. Okay, so he's up there preaching on a preacher. He up there preaching. And then he gonna pass out the basket so you could put your tithes and offering in for this unity that he wants us desperately to fund. We didn't give him enough money. That's basically what he's saying. Because right now they don't have enough money, so now we're not focusing on what we should be focusing on. Is climate change. Robert Jordan said the Democrats are there because this will devastate Biden's economy, which is in the toilet right now. Robert, no, they're not. So you're saying, how about all those pipeline workers that lost their jobs? Are they making solar panels or windmills now? No, I mean, these people, like the pipeline, they got shut down. Some, I guess, they're not investing, or they didn't hire them for solar energy or anything like that, because I don't think that the materials to make solar panels, I think, is really expensive, and I think they import that material from China. I don't think that's American made material. So long answer, but it's really a short answer. No, these guys are still out of work. These guys are still out of work. Okay. Glenn says Illinois needs to clean up its own damn mess. Cut off federal funding, period. Yeah, they do need to clean up. They caused it. They need to clean it up. They need to work it out. They shouldn't be dependent on the federal government to do it. If the oceans are going to rise, why did Obama pay $7 million for the house on the water? I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. And Alan, you're saying there is no money for Social Security. There's no money for Medicare. But we have all the damn money in the universe for Ukraine. This is wrong. I think that's why they're trying to get workers with the work visa, because I believe they're now. You guys tell me this. I don't know. When you come over for immigrants, as an immigrant, and you have a work visa, do you pay taxes? Do they take out Social Security and Medicare taxes? And that's probably one of the things, or why they want more people over here to work, to pay into those programs, Social Security and to Medicare. And that's one of the reasons why, Democrats will say, oh, immigrants are our GDP, or our economic of our society, because they pay into these taxes. If they don't get paid under the table, I think some of these people are getting paid under the table. But yeah, they're trying to fund their social program. So they need more people to work and pay into Social Security and Medicare, because they spent it. They spent it all on whatever social programs that don't add any value to other people. Okay. Well, that's it. That's, I've been on for an hour and 15 minutes, you guys. I got to make sure my kids are going to bed. I want to thank everyone for tuning in for another live video. We're going to be at it tomorrow. Don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about it. So you guys like, subscribe, share, and comment. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I am sending all my good to you. You guys have a great evening.